Tare Turi Soha. Om 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 Tare Turi Soha.
Can everybody hear me? Peace be upon you. Thank you for another raid into the consciousness mind. Try and bring back some gold into manifest experience. As Don Juan says, you have to be a crackpot to spend your time doing this kind of stuff. I'll just read out from the Dalai Lama's Guru, another page of the Bodhisattva to start us off. Once the plantain tree gives forth its fruit, it is incapable of bearing fruit again. But even after bearing fruit, virtue influenced by bodhicitta increases without end. Having gone to the base of the Parijataka tree, if you make a wish, your desired aim will be fulfilled. So too bodhicitta has the power to fulfill the aims of living beings. A tree, its branches, and the fully ripened fruit are all dependent on the earth drop. Every fine thing in samsara and nirvana is contingent on bodhicitta. The holy ones explain that the sole dharma to be embraced, from now until the knowledge of all modes of meditation is reached, is bodhicitta, the ground from which come forth 100,000 benefits and happinesses. Supreme bodhicitta is the wish to remove every flaw from every living being and to bring about limitless good qualities in each of them. This is outstanding, even amongst the outstanding. If one wants to benefit everyone, one needs bodhicitta. If one wants to befriend everyone, one needs bodhicitta. If one wants to gain the confidence of all, one needs bodhicitta. If one wants to be everyone's spiritual friend, one needs bodhicitta. So we're doing the talk on Bodhisattva vows. The vows are the guidelines to protect this mind. So the mind that we're generating is the wish to help every single living being find their greatest potential to awaken. Every single living being we meet, we want them to be awakened. We want them to find their true self and to never suffer again. When we wake up in the morning, we want to free every living being from suffering. Everything we do is motivated by this wish. Another way to call it is you're at one with God's will. It's just another way of saying it. There's no self-interest. There's only the wish to be the hands, the eyes, the ears of God, to free those who aren't at one with God. Another way of saying it is that you're a mother or a father of every living being in the universe. That's how you see yourself. Or another way of saying it is you're a child, and everyone you meet is your mother or father, and you want to help them. It's like the essence of your being is, how can I help? Verbally saying it, it's just the essence of your being. To understand this mind and these vows, we have to understand ourselves. So we can just reflect as I'm talking about these qualities. It's like essentially like a meditation It has to be felt deeply in us that every single moment of every single day, every single action I perform is to relieve suffering and to be happy. You can try and find an action you do that isn't motivated by one of those two things. When you sit down to watch a television show or internet program, it's either to be happy or to relieve yourself from suffering. When you meet your friends, it's either to be happy or to relieve yourself from suffering. You just go through your life and check, is that not true? It's not a philosophy. Is it true or not? We may be unconscious of it. Is it true? Is every action I perform one of those two things? To be happy, I'm seeking happiness. I'm trying to relieve myself of some suffering. What's stopping you? Why doesn't it work? According to the Buddha, the causes of happiness and the causes of suffering are in the mind. Is it true or not? Is your happiness produced by a car or a house or another person? Do they make you happy every time you see them or have them? Or does it depend on your mind? And if you have an unpleasant mind, if you're in pain, it doesn't matter what the car does. It won't relieve your suffering. This is emptiness. It's very, very important, which we may forget again and again. Happiness cannot be found outside of the mind. And the relief of suffering cannot be found outside of the mind. Buddha said, the cause of that suffering, the cause of a mind that doesn't experience happiness is delusions, an incorrect way of perceiving reality. We want to abide in a loving relationship, but our anger, pride, attachments, self-interest, jealousies stop us. We may love our partner deeply or our children, but when one of these delusions takes over, we engage in hurtful actions. If it's anger, we say and do things which are horrible and we regret later, which destroy relationships and cause pain. When we are loving, we engage in beautiful actions that cause joy and happiness. The Dharma is entirely working to create the inner causes that genuinely creates happiness and genuinely removes suffering in the mind. It actually fulfills the wish to be happy and be free from suffering, because it works where they are found. Reflect. If you have a patient, loving, joyful mind, how do you suffer if the externals change? Is it your true self when you're loving, joyful, and in a state of emptiness, awareness? Is that your true self? Or is it your true self when you're angry, when you're self-obsessed? Or are you misperceiving? And when you come back to your true self, the actions you performed under the influence of delusional states, you recognize as wrong and you regret. You recognize it was not you. Just as we recognize when someone's drunk, their actions are different than if they're sober. We don't judge them in the same way because they're temporarily crazy. This is very important you understand this in yourself. Fundamentally, every single thing you do is the wish to be happy, the wish to be free from suffering. The reason that we're not is because we're confused and we think external things can do it, and they can't. Happiness is a state of mind. The reason that we're not happy and we suffer is because of delusional misperceptions in our mind that is not our true self. The Dharma is the ability to remain in our true self, in which we will do nothing but gain actions of happiness and freedom from suffering. We recognize clearly that when we're delusional, we were mistaken, and these actions were not our true self. If we knew our true self, we would never engage in those actions. This is true for every single living being. When your mother harmed you in the past, she was not in her true self, but under the influence of delusional actions, which she herself did not want, but out of confusion thought to be true. If your mother was in her true self, she would not have done that action. This is true for every action and every being since the dawn of time. Bodhicitta is the wish for every single living being to realize their true nature and never harm themselves or anyone ever again because they know reality. It's the recognition that when someone is deluded, they are not themselves. And it is the wish for them to find themselves and to never blame them for being temporarily crazy. It is the thought how wonderful it would be if every living being woke up to their true nature, never misperceived, and was never delusional. Imagine a world where there was no selfing and no anger. When someone gets angry at you, they are not getting angry at you. They are in a delusional state of perceiving their own projections, and out of fear attack them. Do we not wish them to find their true self, rather than blaming them for suffering? There is only one thing in this life that is worth anything, and that is awakening. That all beings know reality, and suffering ends. I will work for this. I will awaken. I will understand what the true causes of happiness are and the true causes of suffering. I will remove them from myself so that I can work to remove it from all living beings forever. Whoever I meet, I simply wish that they find their true self. I must awaken to benefit all living beings. This is our bodhicitta mind, and we're going through these vows. This is what we're protecting. So often we forget bodhicitta, we forget everything. We get angry and we think that someone else is the cause of our problem. If you're a Dharma practitioner, you understand that when that happens, that you are temporarily insane as well. And when you're in that state, you will harm others, creating negative imprints on our mind, which you understand will ripen as negative karma, perpetuating the cycle of suffering, of misperception and misunderstanding that something outside of us can control our states of mind. We can say our mantra. The Prime Minister of the UK is the cause of my mental happiness or suffering. It's absurd. My happiness and suffering is dependent on my neighbour. When it appears that way sometimes. When it happens, we understand. We're confused. When it happens and we're confused, we can feel so self-righteous about it, can't we? That we'll throw the Dharma out the window when it's like when the ego arises. And we have to remind ourselves and understand again and again when that ego arises, that sense of self that would kill, that we're totally lost. This is why we meditate again and again and again and remind ourselves again and again and again, because that potential's still there. When it happens to us, if you understand the meditation we just did, then it's not us. So we don't feel guilty. We can regret it. That's very different. But we don't feel guilty. If you feel guilty, then you think you've got a choice in the matter. I just finished the Lord of the Rings again. It's like one of the best bits. It's like the end of the hero's journey for Frodo. And it's like the going away and the return. And when he returns, he doesn't want to, spoiler alert, if you haven't read it, if you haven't read it, for goodness sake. Yeah, spoiler alerts, have you? Or you can turn your audio off. He doesn't want to kill Saruman. He doesn't want any more killing, but he doesn't want to kill Wormtongue. It doesn't matter how evil they are. He's says it. It says all this work, everything that's happens, everything, the smallest negative action that's happened in the Shire is because of Mordor. It's because of the dark power. No one is to blame. Not even Saruman, he says, who thinks he's doing things for himself, but he's not. He's under the influence of the dark power. This is bodhicitta. It's that ability to be with someone who you've just seen cause the deaths of your friends and recognize it's not him. It's just so profound. So Saruman kind of recognized that insight, that bodhicitta, and it's more powerful than any of his magic or anything. And it makes you very, very alone. The journey of Frodo is just super beautiful. Tolkien's so wise. That the hobbits that are celebrated for the journey are Pippin and Merry. And they've got all this bright gear on, their soldiery, and they like their stories, and they like they're like the soldiers, and they fight off the bad guys. And Frodo's like, don't kill anybody, don't kill it. During the battle, he's just going about making sure no one gets killed if they surrender. And Sam's at pains because people don't really admire Frodo. They don't give him the due attention. This is the Bodhisattva. You're going to go into the realm of suffering. I've heard it said by quite a few awakened masters, if you're not practicing the path, if you're not going for it, then you haven't suffered enough. And it's it's fine. It's just go away and just go back into samsara and suffer more because you're not ready for awakening, which is the accumulation of suffering, where it's I'm done with this. This is but Frodo's journey. It's not glamorous. And you're scarred by it. You're wounded by it. You can't come back the same. You can't go on the Bodhisattva journey and come back the same. you're going into the realm of suffering. Yeah. So you can sit with someone who's a murderer and understand them. And you don't get that, it's not glamorous. It's like you don't get the... You become alone, but you see things other people can't see. You understand delusions. People like to blame. Do we not? Do we not like to blame? And the Bodhisattva has that constant, it's like like Lao Tzu, say his student was made a judge, and they caught a thief, took him to court, like the guy who owns all the land, like a 1%er. The thief stole from his land, and the judge said to the thief, right, you're going to jail for stealing for 6 months. You, the owner, you're going to jail for 2 years. It's like, can you just imagine? I mean, like this happening, it's like, whoa, what? And it's like, right, the thief shouldn't have stolen because he didn't show enough self-restraint, but he was hungry, and there's a reason he stole. The reason he stole is because you've got all the food, all the land. You've got too much. You're the cause of the thief in the first place, needing to steal. So you're going to jail. So they quickly got rid of him. Like the emperor said, if he can see that, then he'll see that he'll go for me eventually. Yeah, it's like just a bit too wise, a bit too insightful. But this is the Bodhisattva mind. Like it just always sees the perspective of the other, and it understands that every action is coming from the wish to be happy, the wish to be free from suffering. And that the reason the actions are bad is because they're delusional. It's not the real person. And then when we're relating to a person going, oh, he shouldn't have done that, you think there's a real person there. And you think that they are under their own influence, and they're not. It's a profound insight. So we can see how the Bodhisattva is built on the Hinayana path, the knowledge and understanding of the self, the way things are. Unless you know the way things are, you can't have that Bodhisattva insight. It's nothing to do with them as a person. You understand their nature, and the nature of actions, and the nature of their suffering. And every action they do, it's not who they really are. If they were who they really are, they wouldn't do those actions, just as you wouldn't. If you woke up, you wouldn't engage in those negative actions. So this is the mind we're working on. It's this then this engagement to free all beings from those delusional states. So the Bodhisattva makes a promise in front of all the Buddhas, in front of God. I vow, from now until the end of time, I will free every being from suffering. That's the mind we're working on. Like the highest of the high. Yeah. Another way of saying it is that we fall in love with every being. We recognize or see God in everything, and we recognize that which is blocking that being from seeing God. Sometimes we call that which is blocking them from seeing God the devil. Say, misperception. It's like a skillful means of depersonalizing the person from the action. Yeah. The main thing is we never want to think they're to blame. Like we blame the devil, which means we're blaming something outside of who they really are. So we're not putting the action with them as an identity. Yeah. If Hitler was given the right teachings and he experienced himself, he wouldn't do the actions. He'd be a Buddha. He's not those actions. So it's very important that we have this understanding as we go into the Bodhisattva vows, that these are the ways to protect that mind. They're not ways to punish us. Like as a person that just like, oh, I just want to get some chips, hang out with some friends, and it's like, oh, I'm told here that I have to be like kind to someone. That's not the perspective. These are guidelines to try and protect that mind, which is Dharma practitioners who recognize it's the most valuable thing in the universe. Whenever we come up against a holy being or we experience something beautiful, that's what we're experiencing, that mind, that work that's being done. And we think, I want that. That's what I want. It doesn't mean that we don't eat chips, we don't watch Netflix, we don't hang out with people, quite the contrary. But it's why we do it. And just to get a glimpse of that, the meaning of that mind, the sense of it. It's unbelievable. I said before, Tsongkhapa, they say, what to say of your actions? Your very breath liberates beings. Every single breath he took is just taking suffering from people and giving them happiness. Taking suffering from them, giving them happiness. It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, it's until you get on the path and start practicing, it's just unbelievable. And then you get a sense of a country that's their main hero, that's their main influence. Yeah, it's not, say, I always pick on Tiger Woods, but all right, it's not to like be like a kid in a go-kart and race around a track in a car and then get posters of them on your wall and worship them. And oh my God, I got the autograph of someone who goes in a go-kart really fast. Yeah, and like work towards it. Son, you can get that go-kart could be go a bit faster in a Grand Prix car, and then people will worship you and pay hundreds of pounds to come and see you go. So what is it? Go-karts, pigeons chasing a crumb, all the unbelievable, meaningless garbage that men come up with. Yeah, and the great fall of the feminine. Some people say it's a conspiracy theory to destroy women. Is feminism. The great fall that women become like men. Yeah, men engage in the most stupid, utter garbage. I've mentioned it before, but it's worth saying again and again. Can you think of anything more meaningless than chasing a crumb and getting that crumb and flicking it into an onion bag? Can you think of anything more meaningless with this great adventure we call life? You expand your consciousness and, and then like women are grounded into like, they'll do things like making clothes that we need or, making food or whatever. It's like traditionally like things that actually matter. And then think, oh, that doesn't matter. I'm going to chase a crumb as well. I'm going to lift weights. I'm going to get some muscle. What a fall. What a deception. Yeah, of course, when we say we want women in charge, we want the end of that sort of masculine mind that wants to go to war to kill people in order to produce more people who can chase pigeons, chase crumbs, or, hit things with sticks. Yeah. We want the goddess energy, which kind of understands compassionately how to engage in the world in the present now. Yeah, we're crazy, right? We're just absolutely crazy. The culture, it's just crazy. Compared to a culture where people admire someone who, when he breathes in, he takes on the suffering of all living beings. When he breathes out, he gives them pure happiness. And the wish to develop like inner fire Tumo, and develop bliss throughout all your channels, and being your channels winds and drops, so you can meditate on becoming one with the universe. It's like, which one? But the enticement of the ego, and it's like, but what about my career? It's like, the possibilities. This is one of the tragedies of the lowest common denominator culture. Call it however you like. Some people maybe call it socialism, communism. Some people call it fascism, totalitarianism. Let's call it the lowest common denominator. Always going to the bottom, the lowest. Is people just have no idea of the possibilities of life. It's like they're just enclosed in a very limited view of what we can do in life. Kind of exemplified for me when you went to the careers office at school. It's like, what do you want to do? I thought, well, you've given me a list of about 12 things. Life's infinite, and you've given me a list of about 12 things, like work in a bank, or like go to university to keep doing the same thing I'm doing now, which is like, well, if you get these qualifications, then you can go on to this course, and then if you go on to that course, you get these qualifications. Then if you get work in this job at this level, then you can get to be mid-management, and then if you work longer, you can get to be the, and then you can retire when you're old and worn out and dead, and you've basically just been a slave. But they've just given you a carrot, haven't they? Huh? And you've got like a variety of 12 carrots, office job, sports, artist, isn't it? It's extraordinary. I just wanted to read you a quote from Don Juan. We talk to ourselves incessantly about our world. In fact, we maintain our world with our internal talk. And whenever we finish talking to ourselves about ourselves and our world, the world is always as it should be. We renew it, we rekindle it with life, we uphold it with our internal talk. Not only that, but we also choose our paths as we talk to ourselves. Thus we repeat the same choices over and over until the day we die, because we keep on repeating the same internal talk over and over until the day we die. A warrior is aware of this and strives to stop his internal talk. It's a very different internal talk to the wish to free all living beings from suffering. But it's like the meaning of life. It's like you're working to free every living being from suffering. You're just not introduced to things like that at school in our culture. It's a new way of talking to yourself. And everything depends upon imputation upon our mind. You understand? If you've got a very limited scope of how you think, very limited things will happen. And it's like a new ways of thinking open up, new ways. The potentiality starts to ripen. For me, it was a very profound thing when Buddha said, I was told, that if your mind at the moment is like the size of a pea, its potential is the size of the earth. And it's like, me? That's when I think, me? Yeah, you. That part of me, that's part of that talk that we're taught, that we're just limited and disposable. Whereas you're absolutely precious, an integral part of God. You know, it's a different thought again, different way to think. Yeah, beautiful way to think. So these are ways to not punish ourselves. Like this, understand the context in which these are being said. Is that we are, as a Bodhisattva, we've recognized that we are, our nature is God. That life is divine, and people are walking about hoping to hit a ball better with a stick. And they're like angry, get angry about it, jealous, and all sorts. It has been said that some people who wake up to this Bodhisattva mind, they can't be around other people without weeping, because they cannot bear, the suffering is so profound. The absence of what is available is so profound, it's just unbearable to see such limitation to what is so potentially so great in your awareness, and to not be in contact with it by these unbelievably stupid thoughts. Yeah? And some bodhisattvas just laugh. It's just hilarious. And as you get in touch with this bodhisattva mind and you understand this, when people throw their projections on you and their dramas, you laugh. It's absolutely hilarious. Life for a bodhisattva, let me put this, is like being in a Monty Python movie. Yeah, people say to me, like, I mean, you can learn to. I'm learning just more like you just don't laugh. You're just doing private. But people always say, "What are you laughing at?" It's like, well, watch Monty Python. That's what I'm laughing at. And so you go like Ministry of Silly Walks. There you go. That's what like Tiger Woods and that. It's no different. You've got to imagine that for us watching the Ministry of Silly Walks, why do you laugh? Because it's arbitrary and it's stupid. And the position you can recognize how stupid it is. That's what it's like for someone from Tibet watching someone play cricket. I mean, I remember my friend, just like going to a cricket, he's just like, what are they doing? It's just like, what are they doing? And it's like someone hits a ball and they just in hysterics. It's just like, we just think it's normal. But if you grew up with the Ministry of Silly Walks and taught that that's what you should achieve in life, who can come up with the best walk? You get angry about it, and that's how you understand all the stuff that we come up with normal. And then, like, you look at these monsters with this plastic surgery. There's like this one that came up. It's just like, it looks like they got demonic masks on. It's like, one, you can either weep at the suffering that must go on, and the hilarity of it, that they think they're beautiful. But you can impute anything, right? They could cover themselves in shit and just impute beautiful and beautiful. This is the modern way, I'm sure someone's done it. Must be someone in the 60s, they used to take heroin on stage as part of a theatre show. I'm sure there must be someone who's covered themselves in shit and gone modern art, and it's like, you're absolutely crazy. So, but for a bodhisattva, you understand that wish to be happy, it's motivating it, and the wish to be free from suffering, and how far away people can go from their true nature. Like, God doesn't, no need to feel guilty, right? God's just like either weeping for you or laughing his head off at how crazy we are. It's like, it's okay. It's okay. I don't mind that you want to do a dump in someone else's mouth, but you must understand that's not the true path to happiness. They're there. It's like, come back home. It's like, you're not a bad person. It's like, don't worry. You're just a bit confused. Yeah, the power of the mind. Yeah? Do anything. So a bodhisattva doesn't turn away from these things. Like, not sitting on your high horse. We understand we could be doing that if we've taken a wrong turn or any action. As Oscar Wilde says, nothing human is alien to me. So, does anybody have any questions coming up? Sure.
Yeah, it was. I think I've asked this in the past around that kind of mind feeling slightly lonely. And I know that you'd said that something about like never experiencing loneliness because you're kind of part of everything. But sometimes I notice that comes up if I'm feeling like a sorrow for the way of things, or when I'm in conversation with someone and I can feel that they're not with me in the conversation, and it can sometimes feel a bit like a lonely feeling. But then when with the sangha, that feeling of like connection feels very strong because there's that shared reality and there's that shared feeling of everyone's kind of maybe in a similar mindset, and listen to people, or at least attempt to, to the best of their ability, listen and do all of these. Yeah. But sometimes out in the world, it can feel a bit, I don't know if maybe that's just the Sangha jewel in itself, and recognising the importance of that, and then finding that Sangha jewel out in the world as well. And because it is there, and I see it in other people, but it's like a jewel, like when you see it, and it's like a special connection without the words. But sometimes, depending on what I've been up to or where I've been, if I've not been around people that fill my soul in that way, it can sometimes feel a bit like finding the place to finding that joy, or that the humor behind it can be quite challenging, and it can feel a bit lonely. So it was more just, I don't really know the question, but it was just around that topic of feeling like,
Yeah, I remember Bill Hicks saying someone came up to him and said, like, "Are you alone?" He went, "I'm always alone." Yeah. So it's like Frodo. He has to leave. He's always going to be alone. People do not understand the journey he's been on. They can't comprehend the suffering that you've gone through, the insight you have. He's just alone. He can't go back to his childhood. He can't. The Shire represents childhood. You just can't go back. He has to go to God. And so this is like a profound moment for all seekers. It's like you can't hold on to the things you've been holding on to. At some point you have to step onto the other shore completely. Like there's metaphorical ways of speaking. I think it's a metaphorical journey. As Joseph Campbell said, where you'd thought to be alone, you'll be at one with all the world. But in a very different way. The loneliness comes from the personality space. And so whilst we engage in the Sangha, we're crossing over. Because we've got a personality and we've got needs. And we still need other people to give us that sense of completion and meaning and connection and vibrancy. It's absolutely beautiful. Like the final step is as you go further up the mountain on the path, less and less people can go with you. Like even your Sangha can't go with you. Maybe even right at the end, like imagine you're on a caravanserai going up the mountain. Taking the gradual path, which means we can take champagne backpacking, take the car, you can take the car around the base of the mountain, all hanging out together. I say the tantric path is like, you just go, I'm not going to climb up the slope. It's like, we take the nice scenic route, stop off for some legs. hang out. But eventually, that gap, the gap of death, you have to kind of, only you can go through alone. Yeah. And then there's a big void. Imagine it's just completely dark. You top of the mountain, and there's this void, and you can't see anything. And the advice, maybe the guru can just be got a stick that he can put through the gap and just push you off the edge, and you're just falling into the void. As Chögyam Trungpa says, like falling into the void. It's terrifying. The good news is there's no bottom. Like Bill and Ted. Ah! Ah! It's this play of not knowing ourselves and being with others. When we really know ourselves, then we're self-contained in our happiness. And there's these two strange elements of being with someone, is that you can be with them at the level of their being, and you recognize their samsara, their projections, their delusions. And for the Bodhisattva just can go in and play. In the Toltec world, it's called shape-shifting. You just be whatever they project you to be, and you just go with their expectations. And then they think they know you, right? That can be lonely if you're not in touch with your being and you're not tuning into their being. And once you haven't gone completely cross over into your own being, then it's lonely. It's like you're seeing someone's projections, you're seeing that they're not seeing you, you're seeing that they're just talking to themselves, really. You're just an excuse to be there. But it's multi-dimensional. There's all like moments where you can tune into the pain of someone who's lost in their drama. Then there's levels in which, the levels in which you're not content within yourself will bring up a sense of loneliness or disconnect, because eventually it all just comes down to the spiritual path, that everything they're saying and doing is just meaningless garbage. And you've no interest in it. Then you can be with them energetically in a state of love. And then, as Don Juan says, you huff and you puff and you make believe that it matters, even though that you know that it doesn't. Ram Dass talked about it, says it's very difficult for some people. That aspect of the path, that's the, like the emptiness side, all the stuff we're coming up with is just meaningless garbage. And at the other side, there's the human heart, the human side of it, the human expression. It's very difficult to get your mind around, isn't it? And in which you engage in it completely. But we have to have that understanding that we ourselves are not the stuff. We are not the stuff. We are love itself. And the stuff is just the images reflected through our divine nature. And whilst we're out of touch with our divine nature, then we feel lonely when we're with someone who's out of touch with their divine nature. Okay. Thank you, Anjan. That's the that's the beauty and the difficulty on the path. Yeah, the Bodhisattva path's not easy. Yeah, Shivali.
I was just going to ask, is that then, would that feeling then be an indication of jumping ahead slightly and then just going back to more the person and working on that level?
I wouldn't use the word jumping ahead. Like, remember, it's not a linear path. Sometimes we are our divine self, openly and clearly, and we can be with someone in absolute unconditional love. Yeah. The difference between us and a Buddha is a Buddha's always like that. That's what an enlightenment is. They're always in that state. For us, it's temporary. Yeah, we have temporary moments where we're not selfing, temporary moments where we could take anything, right? You must have had those moments on the path in a day. It's like you could just handle anything. Your mum's blethering at you and you just want to give her the biggest hug, you know. It's like, oh, you just see it, don't you? You just see the pain and the drama, and it's hilarious. It's like, oh, mum, don't be so stupid. There's other times when the mum says the same thing and you want to smash her in the face. It's like triggers you, right? So you want to give her a slap or your big argument. And that time that we're in that space, it's real. Those are the glimpses. This is what we're trying to do on the path. Just go be there more and more. That's your real self. That's what your real self is like. It can handle anything. It's a really this unification between the ultimate law and the human law is what life is all about. Ram Dass talks about this a lot, and it's a very beautiful thing. The ultimate law just understands, if they drop nuclear bombs on the planet, it's like, fair enough. That's the way it is. Nothing else could happen. It's karma, right then, right? Consciousness will continue. And there's a space in you, and just like, okay, that's all that dissolving. And then there's the space part of you that it's like the pain of children dying. It's unbearable. It's like it's unbearable. Like, cannot be said stronger. It's unbearable. It's the reason we ignore it. We cannot bear it. The only way we can bear it is understanding emptiness. That's unification. You might think this raw, sensitive, loving side of us that just wants to freak, cannot bear to see an ant suffer. From it's not picking up its food and you want to help, or a snail on the side, or seeing like a puppy starving. Now we want that. That's what we're cultivating. And the only way to cultivate that is to bring in that mind, I just said, imagine, that could handle a nuclear war happening. The unification of those two things. So they said, if you just lean towards the mind that can handle a nuclear war happening, you'll become a cold person and you'll fall from the path. If you're just a sensitive empath, you can't bear to be in a room. It's like it's too difficult, it's too prickly to be with, just to handle any kind of negative feedback. It's like, you need that unification. So we're developing both. I can only speak from experience that until you kind of realize yourself, Shivali, then we experience loneliness. And when you find consciousness, it turns into aloneness. It's just this utter joy of being. And you realize that space, it's never touched, no matter whose company you keep. when you keep someone's company, it's like an effect within that space. But until you find that space, when you're with someone, it feels like that's you, like they've raised you. And whilst that's still the case, that's why we need Sangha. Like the Sangha jewels at the beginning considered the most important jewel, because we're really influenced by who we see and hang out with. It's really important to be around people who have, as you say, a different description of the world that supports beauty and love and openness and expression and majesty and the wonder of life. But try and get into that space of the feel of the beauty of that Bodhisattva. You can shapeshift. Celtic Rangers, yeah! Away the boys! And you sing some sectarian songs and that with passion and gusto. Yeah, it's all nonsense. You come back to understand, like pigeons chasing a crumb. That's the state you're in. You got to see the delicate unity of it. It allows you just to go in and play. You know, what you're talking about now, EastEnders, and, you know, my favourite line from Friends. It's like, weren't you sad when Bambi died? And Chanda's like, yeah, I was really sad when the guy stopped drawing the cartoon. That's emptiness, right? It's a perfect example. That's the emptiness mind sees that. It's just someone drawing a cartoon. And the human side goes into the story of Bambi. And you need to be able to unite those two. Oh, that in some way kind of answers the question. There's no answer to loneliness until we find ourselves. And until we find ourselves, we skillfully engage in how much we can take. And we notice if we get too attached to the Sangha, too attached, then you need to move more with challenging situations. This is the thing, you can get institutionalized if you stay in a spiritual place. At the same time, you can stay as long as you need to be healed or to do. It's your choice, it's your life. The Bodhisattva path is quite challenging.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's interesting because I noticed that I can spend a lot of time on my own and I don't feel lonely by myself. But it's that when it's mirrored or when I'm around other people, that feeling can come up.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's part of...
No, you're seeing their samsara and it's horrific.
Is it a reflection, like a mirroring happening?
On one level, we're all mirroring each other. It's all our mind. But in this terms of the context of this point, it's like you're seeing more of the projections of someone's inner pain. And there's a gap between you and them. Isn't it? There's a gap. You're not communing. Yeah. Even if you're really close to someone and they're in a turmoil, you can feel that gap. And it's sad. I don't necessarily, if you're talking about loneliness there, I think it's more the sadness of the gap of being with someone who's just too in their mind and they can't commune with you. What's it like when you're with a friend? One of the qualities when you're really in a good friendship is you don't have to maintain sentences in your mind to talk about things. You're just with them and it flows. It's like one of the qualities, isn't it? Like you don't have to plan what you're going to say just in case you run out. This awkward silence. As you go on the path, you can play with that awkward silence. It's kind of fun, but for a lot of people, it's not so much fun, is it? The awkward silence. They have to fill the silence with chat. And go on repeating the same thing. But good friendships is that flow, the ease. It's that sense of ease, right? Isn't it? Like saying, even when our good friends are blocked, in a sense of sadness. Anybody got any other questions, or crack on with the... So now we've got some context again of this incredibly beautiful mind that we're cultivating. Number 17, retaliating to harm or abuse. If out of anger or impatience we repay abuse with abuse, beating with beating, criticism with criticism, and so on, we incur a secondary downfall. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. In any way I told the truth. When is it? When one is scolded, despised, beaten, or criticized, if one reacts in the same way, that is the misdeed of departing from the four dharmas of virtuous conduct. It's quite simple, right? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. We understand that. Sorry, just closing this. Jesus brought in the Bodhisattva path. Yeah, it's the community at the time didn't have a fucking clue what he was talking about. What? Someone hits you, give them your other cheek. Are you deranged? It's like higher consciousness coming in. It's like utterly foreign, alien kind of. We understand the beauty of it. But I think it's more like the Dzogchen way. It's like, if someone slaps you, to give them the other cheek. If they slap you again, shoot them. That's Jim Dodge's advice. They are confused. This is the wrathful, and then the wrathful action will come in. Yeah, I think I mentioned on a Facebook post recently, if you're sitting quietly, having a beautiful picnic, at peace, whoever comes in, you offer them food and bring them peace, and someone walks up and comes up and punches you in the face, and then you say, don't do that, and they turn around and say, you're judging me. And you shouldn't judge people because you're a Buddhist. Then shoot them. Not literally with a gun. It's a metaphorical. Then it's not violence to prevent this creature from causing more and more damage. That's not violence. That's just like saying, I'm not going to get rid of cancer because it's violence to stop it. It's just insane. But if you're in a difficult situation, maybe you have an argument, someone slaps you, don't hit them back. Turn the other cheek. Bring them down, calm them down, make them understand. It's very different if you're just sitting there minding your own business, isn't it? And you're just being peaceful and calm. Someone comes into your world and just starts attacking you. You stop them. The crucial thing here is our motivation. If we get angry, classic Bodhisattva, I think it was, what's his name? I can't remember, the best friend of the Prophet. They were on the battlefield, and it's different battles in those days, isn't it? It's like, you don't drop bombs on children. It's like warriors fight. And the Prophet's friend had overcome his enemy, and his enemy spat in his face. And he put his sword down and walked off, and the guy's like, well, why didn't you kill me? He went, because my mind became angry. And to kill someone with an angry mind is wrong. He said, it's not Islam, it's not peace. It's like, that's what you're talking about here. It's not, like the Prophet is a perfect example. It's like you turn the other cheek, turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek so much that I think they made in a treaty that this is now peaceful times and no one must fight. And in that state of being at peace, they came in and killed them. He went, right, that's it. The sword has to come out. Have to sort them out. After he sorted them out, he'd pray over their grave and help their family and stuff. He's just like, you just don't know anything else. If we don't stop you, you're just going to cause more and more violence, more and more hurt, more and more pain. We've shown every example to you that we love you, that we want you to be at peace. It's still not enough. But no angry mind, right? Just... $18. Next to a big, really hard, really kind of get you. Not apologizing when we have the opportunity. If we have disturbed another person by acting in an unskillful way, and later the opportunity to apologize arises, but out of pride or laziness we fail to do so, we incur a secondary downfall. 19. Not accepting others' apologies. If someone who has previously harmed us later apologizes, and without a good reason, but not out of resentment, we refuse to accept his or her apology, we incur a secondary downfall. If we do so out of resentment, we incur a root downfall. It's like 18 root downfalls there. These like really harm our bodhicitta mind. In cases when one has done something wrong to another person, or they suspect that one has, if due to malice, pride, or laziness, one does not explain oneself in a suitable manner, that is the misdeed of disregarding of those who are angry. In cases when someone has done something wrong to oneself, and they explain themselves in accordance with Dharma, but due to malice, harmful intent, or not wanting to respond, if one does not accept their apology, that is the misdeed of rejecting others' apologies. So it's very interesting to note like the protection of this bodhicitta mind. One of the worst things to do is not accept someone's apology. So it's like we're not forgiving. Not forgiving harbors resentment. And it's like binding that person to their action, which means it's binding identity. They are that action. It also will turn in on ourselves. If we can't accept someone else's apologies, we won't be able to accept the negative actions we did and disidentify from them. But it's quite a difficult thing, isn't it? So you're upset with someone. You know they've done something wrong to you. They have done something wrong to you. They know it as well. And then you say, I'm sorry. If you again keep holding on to it, no, but you did it, but you're not a bodhisattva. In that moment, you strayed from the path. It's not healing, is it? If someone comes to apologize and you don't accept it, how can you heal? It keeps an energetic pain between you and the other. Understanding by doing Vajrasattva practice, it's essentially we're just apologizing in essence, and this being's just cleansing us through. We're not these actions. You're purified. And it's like, I'm sorry. It's a very powerful practice. It's opening up yourself naked. Being vulnerable, exposing yourself, and if the other person doesn't accept it, it's like... But we're in that position and we want them to suffer. We want them to suffer. That's the difficult thing, isn't it? Anybody not find that difficult? Not find it just easy. Oh, someone apologize. Ah, yeah, no problem. Sometimes we can. So we have to train. We have to someone. So now you're alert. Yeah, it's like the pain of the path. It's like before you could just get away with someone come to apologize and grumble. Now it's like you'll be alert. Someone says they're sorry, you remember, I have to accept it. It's like, whoo! But what does that mean? That's the way. That's that. We want healing to happen. We can see in our society that it's a very difficult concept. Rehabilitation and healing rather than punishment. Again, this is Jesus, right? And our society is still in the Old Testament. Punishment, reward, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Chivali.
It was just around forgiveness. So what I noticed in myself is that forgiveness feels like more of an embodiment than the words. So it's like that the connection between saying something and then meaning it. And I don't feel like I have control over when my body chooses to release and feel that forgiveness. It feels like it's nothing that I can do. So would it just be, say, going for refuge and prayer and using methods to kind of encourage the body to release those feelings of forgiveness? Because there's like the logical understanding and contemplating it and reading it in Dharma, but then there can be a lot of guilt that comes up if it's like, well, I'm reading it or hearing the words and trying to say the right words, but then it's like the body doesn't always want to go along with that. And then there can be a bit of guilt around that as well. Like, oh, but I feel or I say I feel forgiveness, but then why is my body not reciprocating that? So yeah, I don't know the question, but something.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Let me just, the question of the guilt, I mean, the guilt, we've got to get rid of guilt. We've got to understand that these are like guidelines for protecting our heart. Yeah, and if you feel guilty, it like defeats the purpose. So when we're talking about like the root downfalls, like they're the ones that like really can affect our bodhicitta heart, our loving heart. Venerable Geshe says, to incur the root downfall, 4 binding factors must be present, not regarding the action as wrong. So you have to like just think, right, let's just say the apology is like, I'm not accepting an apology, so I'm fucking right about it. So what you just said by definition isn't that. Not wishing to abstain from the action in the future, rejoicing in the action, having no sense of shame or consideration for others. You basically like lost it. Yeah, you're just like, I don't give a fuck about this. This happens to people. Don't care about that Buddhist stuff. I can't believe I got into it, you know. It's just like, that person's a fucking bastard. And I'm just like, and I'm glad that I'm not accepting their apology. I'm glad about it. We'll meet loads of people like that. That's when you break it. The inability to not be a bodhisattva is not breaking them. Yeah, it's essentially what you're saying, Chivali. It's not easy. And you can't pretend to forgive someone when you're still experiencing pain and hurt. But it's different than your understanding your inability to forgive is different than just accepting they've apologized and accepting it. It doesn't mean that you can fully embrace the impact of the pain that they've caused you and let that go. That's a different phenomenon. But if someone comes up to you and says, I'm sorry, you go, okay, I accept your apology. You can say, unless they're really immature, you can understand yourself, if you apologize to someone, it doesn't mean that the hurt's going to just go away. But you've opened lines of communication again. Yeah. Like, this is one of the dangers of anger, is that you can say something and that can cause a rift in your friendship that will never heal. Like, okay, it will never be the same again. Yeah, it's like, and the healing, I should say, can take place, and the friendship's got like some depth to it that you've been through something difficult. But it doesn't mean the friendship will survive that moment of anger. But if you do something horrendous to one of your friends and you apologize for it, you don't think, right, that's it, it's done, sorted, they forgive me, I've apologized and they've accepted. I think that'd be immature from their side. You recognize you've done something wrong. You recognize that they've recognized it and you accept that. Now you work on the forgiveness. It's like, and bringing the action up, you can work on it together. Like, the pain between you can help you grow in love. In fact, not forgetting it can be helpful. It reminds you never to do it again. That we need some level in which we engage in negative actions to know what they are, to know what negativity really is, what painful ways of behaving really are, so we know not to do them. It's part of like history, marking down what wars are and remembering them, so we know never to do it again. That's what Remembrance Day is all about, right? You don't forget, but we still like, but we can have German friends, right? Like, we trade again, we forgive, or some country can forgive the British for their, was it the sun never sets on the British Empire. Like, that's how much land they tried to get. Every corner of the globe. You don't forget, but you forgive. Forgiveness isn't easy, but it comes from this understanding that we talked about at the start. That's the point. What the Bodhisattva path is. It's not them. The level we can understand that in our own practice is the level we can forgive. But that doesn't mean we forget. It doesn't mean we acknowledge the negative action that happened. Forgiveness is the ability to sit with it and not be defined by it. It humbles us, doesn't it? I'm not perfect and I've done these negative actions, and that's the sense of shame. It's like that humble, like that. I need to control myself. I need to watch my mind. I can't just do what I like whenever I want, because this is what happens. And when you've done that, and then someone loves you anyway, that's profound. If you're just loved because you do good actions, there's a sense of God will only love us if we're worthy. But we need to go astray. And forgiveness is, I love who you are, not your actions. But we still see ourselves as our actions. So in a way, many ruffians, I've been reading Lord of the Rings, rapscallions, scoundrels, they can move closer to God quicker because they can see that they're still loved despite having done these really negative things. That's what real love is, when someone loves us despite all the negativity. That's not someone who would just, like, as you say, you can't intellectualize that. It's like a deep soul realization that we hurt each other. And somehow that hurt brings us closer together. There's a strange relationship with hurting ourselves and loving ourselves. There's some just crucial things, I think, that you bring up, Javal. It's like we're never denying how we feel. We're never pretending. We're never belittling the hurt that happened to us. As we're engaging in the Bodhisattva path, it's just strange compared to how we normally think. We understand the more someone hurts us, the further away they were from their true self. And that's the only reason that they could engage in that action. And we love them more. The prodigal son. It's the prodigal son. Sometimes as well, we need radical acts of forgiveness, and it's the only way to heal. So regardless of any rationalization, any intellectualization, any amount that someone's hurt us, our parent has abused us, we forgive them. This is what we're working towards. Samaya, you need to unmute yourself. Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to share briefly that I had this whole forgiveness and being forgiven story. And I think it was part of the Bodhisattva, like the delusions in 3D that I was thinking about with my mum, because she came over and was asking about getting jobs and am I cleaning, and she didn't talk about paint. I was furious, and I really was harsh speech, I just came on her head, and then I said sorry because I felt really, I saw the delusion in it, and she said sorry to me, and it's just been so, it's like confessing how hurt I was felt very like humbling, and I felt humiliated. But when I said it and she forgave me, it's like it cleaned almost all the times it's happened in the past were kind of condensed into that exchange, into those exchanges. And it's been so like the purifying action of the mantra in real life. I felt so blessed to have that I could expose myself so much with her, to be such a brat, to be so horrible, and for her to then accept my apology. It was extraordinarily sweet, and it's still, it's still completely in the energy between us of actual love, not just lip service to the fact that she's my mum and I'm her daughter. And it's just incredible really, to say sorry and to accept apologies. It's got huge potential for real loving kind of person. I mean, that's really shame.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really important thing. Well, we could start this whole class again and just do the complete opposite viewpoint. Say some Buddhists say that their forgiveness is a non-existential quality, that it's, it's all to do with the karma on your consciousness and just removing it. It's got nothing to do with anyone else. Like the story of the Buddha when the guy says, "Oh, forgive me. I can't forgive you. This different person has arrived today than was yesterday." And they think that you can't use forgiveness. What essentially a lot of these people are saying is, in my experience, is that they're control freaks. And a lot of Buddhists become control freaks. And a lot of the talk, when you hear like, "Oh, you just rest in awareness," and it's like you attain your own sense of aloneness, it's like appeals to the control freak. And there's a sense of, I don't need friends, I'm just an awareness, control freak. Whereas forgiveness, you know for a fact, you cannot be happy until the other person has forgiven you, and you're dependent on others. And a lot of Buddhists don't like that. They interpret awareness as being independent. So it's a control freak. The path of the Sufi and the Bodhisattva is understanding we are utterly interconnected. You cannot be enlightened if others aren't. So a Bodhisattva understands we are all one being. So you're not enlightened and I am. You don't understand what it is. We all enlighten together. And so forgiveness is this interconnection, this humility, this opening up. And if you don't understand, it's like what Shivali said, if you don't understand existentially what forgiveness does, you're really far off the path. Because it's something you feel in your being when someone forgives you. And it's like love itself unfolding. It's like say God loves to forgive us. It's that quality of saying that I love you so much that you're never part of your actions. And it's like I want you to create negative actions so you can know that I love you no matter what you do. That's like what the imperfection is. It's that you can never go astray from God's love. And I want you to try. Whereas if you're a goody-goody and you're always trying to prove God's worth by behaving right, you'll never really feel the love because you're trying to remain in control. Yeah, so part of like Guru Yoga is that sense you're out of control. You're just this out of control. And no way of losing self-importance or like, I'm going to do the path. You can't do the path. It's a path of it's surrender. Something takes you over. You have to accept something in. So forgiveness is like super beautiful. And these are feeling realms. That's like what Shivali is trying to get. You can't pretend. You feel someone's forgiveness in your body, right? In your being. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And just on a kind of a larger level, I remember talking to my friend about politics in South Africa. And I just heard wasn't that involved at the time. I was when I was younger, and I was like, oh, I heard that Nelson Mandela, is not such a good president or prime minister or whatever it is. And people are criticizing him. And he's like, we don't care at all. He stopped civil war. That's it. That's the end of it. It's just like the end of it all. The end of the debate. Shut up. Doesn't matter. So one man stopped civil war. What is his quality that stopped the civil war? He forgave everyone that came to him. Knowing he would forgive, they came and opened up and exposed themselves and said what had happened. And you're forgiven. And then that's what healed the country. Otherwise, there'd have been a civil war for all the negative actions that were done. It's like, you see what a raise in consciousness that is. Can you imagine how easy it would be for them to blame the white people? They've been murdering and raping for 50 years. That wisdom to know that's not going to help. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help us. That's a very beautiful example to hold within us. That it's like, I think in answer to your question, Shivali, it doesn't have to be perfect. I can't imagine Nelson Mandela, would sit there going, oh yeah, right, that's all that forgotten. It's like, you write the history books, it's like the pain of that, it'd be unbelievable. We've still got so much work to do, but the essence of it, it's like, it's not going to help me or you or anyone if I hold on to this as a grudge. So this is the spiritual journey, right? These are like the guidelines of the Bodhisattva. This is what's going to make us stray from this loving heart, as if we don't accept these apologies and what it's pointing to, the profoundness of forgiveness, acceptance, non-identification. Non-identification means I'm unified with the other. Yeah, and it's not like I'm here in awareness and you're over there. That's stronger identification. It's like letting people in who've harmed you. That's like the inner turning the other cheek, isn't it? It's like, not easy. Not easy. I hope it's very clear as we finish that there's no sense of ignoring someone's negative action, no sense of pretending it didn't happen, no denial of how you feel. It is the understanding that if we're going to heal, I can't blame you by defining you through that action. That's all. So we didn't get very far on the Bodhisattva, but I mean, we could do it for the rest of our life, so it doesn't really matter. But very, very profound stuff to work on. So thank you all for being here, giving your loving attention. May God bless us all to be more forgiving towards ourselves, towards others, to the world at large, knowing that we're in an interconnected web of kindness and that every action we perform has repercussions towards everyone else. That's like how prayer affects everyone, because we're interconnected. And so I pray that you have a beautiful day. Enjoy the grey, if you're in Scotland. The beautiful rain. No one's out because it's raining. It brings more smells in the air, doesn't it? And thank you so much. God bless.